The events over this weekend have proven really quite interesting. Mahyar Tousi, who's somebody who I know, and and I like him. I don't always agree with everything he says, but he thinks I'm a liberal academic, um, and but he's somebody who has received death threats following criticisms that he's made about protests. In an interview with Talk Radio, he discussed the nature of these threats and their impact on him. He's been involved in events where police presence was significant. He's friends with Tommy Robinson. He's confirmed that Robinson had left the scene of one particular protest in a taxi before the riot police arrived. He has been on site. And the Remembrance Day events, the footage that he took was significant, demonstrating, in fact, that a lot of the claims against, particularly Tommy Robinson, were insubstantial. These illustrations illustrate the interaction between political activism, media coverage, law enforcement. And yesterday he was covering the pro-Palestinian rallies, the protests in London. And apparently, when he started covering them, he heard the police say, "Tousi's here." And he was taken to one side and told that he should appear at a police station on Monday, where he would probably face arrest. Specifically for things that he's posted on social media. Well, it comes very close to the issues that faced Alison Pearson. It comes very close to a sort of thought police thing. And I find this very disturbing. He talked particularly about an Israeli journalist who had got signs saying that Hamas and Hezbollah are terrorists. Well, they're actually defined as terrorist organizations in the UK. This isn't an opinion. This is a legal fact. And to have a banner confirming a legal fact, is to promote the law. And I don't quite understand why the police would then encourage people to hide that fact. I can understand why the police may not want a confrontation. I can understand why the police guard against a confrontation, but it becomes obtuse when the police are hiding the law. And I'm very supportive of Palestine. I'm also very supportive of Israel. I'm not a fan of Netanyahu's government. I'm not a fan of the siege of Gaza. And I'm not a fan of the current activities of the IDF. I think they've gone beyond the basic right to self-defense. But that's an entirely different matter. And that is not what the police seem concerned about. The police seem concerned to monitor thoughts, and that worries me greatly. And the possibility of Mahyar being arrested fills me with a certain amount of horror, and seems to confirm the ideas put out by Elon Musk that Britain is slipping into a police state. I've lived in states which are under pressure. I've lived in Russia until 2019, and I certainly felt the pressure, and I certainly felt that it was not a place where I should say anything inappropriate. One of my colleagues in the university said something inappropriate and got sacked almost overnight. I don't even remember now what he is alleged to have said. I do remember being told and thinking that was foolish to have said that aloud. It was something about Putin. And it was certainly not something terribly controversial, but it was something that I thought was better not said aloud. And I was extremely careful. But I wouldn't expect to have to be as careful in the UK. where the rule of law, where freedom of speech are paramount, or at least were. And all I can say is I'm concerned. We live in a place where it becomes increasingly difficult to register opinions. For example, I was just talking with somebody today about the methodology of YouTube. You have two choices on YouTube. If you're going through the comments which have been left, you can either heart them, or you can press the three dots, which I've now learned how to do, and you can hide the people from the channel. There is no alternative. If you don't press the heart, the comment keeps popping up in the feed and blocking the feed, and it then becomes impossible. It becomes impossible to read what other people are saying. And so, yes, it sort of forces you into a position where you are effectively censoring information, which I think I will increasingly do. But it's not something I do lightly. I don't approve of censorship. I don't approve of preventing free speech, even if I don't like it. But I think one's being forced into this position, and I will do it. I mean, be warned. Be warned. It takes more time, and I squeeze in YouTube as best I can at the best of times. But it's about the systems that we have got, which operate, which assume or which force people to act in a particular way, which force people to be critical, which force people to take sides. They force people to be tribal. I don't particularly like it, and I've done everything to resist it, but clearly that's not the way forward. But when it comes to Tousi, I'm a supporter. As I say, I don't agree with all he says, but I think he's a good person. And I could extend this a little bit further to, for example, Assange and Tommy Robinson. Again, I don't really agree with either of Assange's activities or Tommy Robinson's activities. But I don't think either of them merits extended time in prison because they have fallen foul of the legal process, because they haven't dotted their I's or crossed their T's legally. The law is aggressive when it feels slighted in this country. And that seems absurd, to be putting people in prison when the prisons are overcrowded simply because the legal system feels that its nose is out of joint. If the legal system did its job, then maybe there would be a better process. The legal system is unbelievably slow at the moment, and unbelievably tied up in sort of bureaucratic cap doffing. And if you don't tick the right box or say the right thing, you find yourself in trouble, and I've seen that. And yet people who have been in prison for one reason or another are now out and free simply because the prisons are getting full. It makes no sense to be putting more people in prison on a legal technicality, and it makes no sense for the police to be chasing people for what amounts to thought crime. And because these individuals are not saying or doing the right, the thing that is expected. People don't do what is expected, and people shouldn't. People should have the opportunity in a free society to surprise, to challenge, to object, to protest. What on earth is the point of a protest march if you're not going to ruffle some feathers? You can't tolerate a protest march if you're going to start arresting or threatening the arrest of individuals who are recording it or who take a different view. Either we have a free society or we don't have a free society. If we don't have a free society, I've been there. I've seen how that works. And that's not a society I wish to live in. But that's the choice. And we're on the precipice of a society that is oppressive. We may not fully realize it, but people looking in on it are realizing it, are recognizing it, and it's not something about left or right. It's something that has crept upon us. It's something about the nature of the Home Office. It doesn't matter whether it's controlled by David Blunkett, whether it's controlled by Theresa May, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, Jenrick, or Yvette Cooper. That organisation has got increasingly aggressive and tyrannical. And it is threatening our way of life. It needs to be challenged. And unfortunately, the tribalism that we adopt in raising any issue at the moment is getting in the way of a genuine debate.